Welcome back to another video, and today we are reacting to biggest boxing or biggest what-ifs in boxing. A lot of things happen in boxing in terms of politics, or if fights could have been made, or careers could have been made. I think one of the biggest ones, two of the biggest ones I really think about in terms of careers are probably what if Adrien Broner didn't fight Marcos Maidana? What if he went back down in weight after he fought I think it was Paulie Malignaggi? And another one is if Salvador Sanchez had a longer career. I think, me personally, I think Salvador Sanchez is the greatest Mexican fighter of all time. I think he would have had more of a more exposure if he had a longer career, which was sadly cut short. But yeah, let's get into this video. Let's see what Office Honcho has to say. Shout out to him. He makes amazing videos. It's a lot of boxing what ifs,
What's good, everyone?
A lot of them.
Hope y'all doing alright. This week's video is on the biggest what ifs in boxing. So pretty much matchups that fell apart or key events that changed the path of one's career. With that being said, let's start.
It happens a lot, A lot of things happen in boxing, sadly.
With the loss of many household names,
that's the first one, Adrien Broner.
Nonito Donaire
first one,
in early 2013, and Manny Pacquiao losing twice in 2012. With the uncertainty of the future of his career, Adrien Broner would be propped up in the pound-for-pound ranks, peaking at number 6 to start the year off. Broner would end the 2012 year off beating the WBC lightweight champion Antonio DeMarco, completely outclassing him to put him away in the 8th round.
It looks almost like he's trying to tire Broner out by taking punches.
He's just so talented, man.
On a swinging left hook, and they're waving a white flag.
Broner would be ranked number 1 at lightweight. He'll start off 2013 beating number 6 ranked Gavin Reese. In a turn of events, Paulie Malignaggi will pull off an upset and win the WBA welterweight title. Since Paulie is clearly a target, this was a perfect addition for Broner to capture another title and another weight class to get closer to Floyd Mayweather in the rankings.
That wasn't really a problem, at least from what I think. He could have went up in weight to fight Paulie like he did, but I think he could have just went back down. I think he should have stayed at the weight, because he, even then, he had that close fight with Paulie, which shouldn't have been close. Clearly the weight wasn't for him. I think he would, if he would have went back down to 135, he would have been on top of 135 for a lot of years. He could have been undisputed, if we've been honest.
Definite number 2 to number 5 at that moment. Broner would move up and defeat Paulie by split decision. Now the plans were Broner was to go back down to lightweight. This was simply a one-off fight where Broner becomes a three-belt champion and the building of his brand. But we would see him go for it all, trying to establish himself as a welterweight, which ended up being a huge turning point in his career, to where we never saw him in these ranks again. And now in this scenario here, Broner goes back down to lightweight after the Paulie fight. Since Broner's established based on numbers from the Paulie fight, cementing he's the underboss to Mayweather, making him the cash cow, he can now set up his own sweepstakes fights at lightweight. Politically, Broner was in a great position to unify the entire weight class. He could have faced WBO
he definitely should have did that, man.
Number 4 ranked Ricky Burns, number 5 ranked WBA champion Richard Abril, and by that time, IBF champion Miguel Vasquez's top-ranked contract expired, meaning Broner can go on to become undisputed at lightweight. If Broner didn't fight Maidana in November, Andre Ward leaves boxing, Marquez loses, and that would put Sergio Martinez at number 2 and Adrien Broner at
number
number 3 to end the 2013 year off. Martinez
Adrien Broner would have been top 3 pound for pound
fighting Mickey Bay to
if he would have
thrown
went back
at the
down
end of 2014. It's Broner fighting Vasquez for undisputed to end the year off and start the 2015 year off number 2 pound for pound, right below Floyd Mayweather at number 1.
That would have been crazy, man.
Video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell.
Yeah, make sure y'all go.
Is not subscribed.
So,
I appreciate everyone showing love and
office.
contributing to
my man's
getting
office
the video out
show.
there. Big shout out to early viewers that come in, that make it easier for the rest to view, keep this channel running. Every single like will protect VQ Motor Vehicles from being totaled at your local sideshows. Even though
it
sucks
like
trumpets and can be annoying under the wrong exhaust setup, we must protect this,
especially because of how his career
at all
went.
costs. So it won't end up like the 240 SS.
Especially where's that?
Thanks for sticking around, and let's get back
to the video. I think he's only like 35. He could have still been boxing. This was the most meaningful
matchup in the back half of the 2010s.
Or still been
Jorge Linares will make one of the best career turnarounds, becoming the WBC lightweight champion. The WBC would strip Linares under odd circumstances. He had injured his hand and couldn't defend his title, so they just stripped him. And the vacant title was fought between Mamami and Dejan, then picked up.
He's a good fighter.
He dropped by Mikey Garcia. Linares, once he recovered, unified against Anthony Crolla for the WBA ring and
he was a world champion.
And for some reason, this fight was fought for the useless WBC Diamond Belt. If you are awarded this belt, it's because you got screwed over by them. By the end of 2017, Linares had re-established his name stateside, and Garcia had became bigger and his return to boxing, capturing the title. This matchup made the most sense within hardcore fans.
That would have been a good
Linares
fight
was
to see.
Mikey Garcia was actually finished.
I think this is when
his
Mikey
contract, so politically he could fight him. There is no divide here between networks.
Which is,
you want to unify the division.
It's just another thing like that really shouldn't have happened. Same thing with Adrien, like with EB. This shouldn't happen, man. Like he should not have went up to 147 to fight Spence. I mean, I get it, it's a money fight, but even then, it's like you don't really know what's going to happen. You don't really know like what's going to happen. Obviously, Mikey, he had enough confidence in himself to think that he could beat Spence, which is good. But the fact that he, I don't remember what was Mikey's next fight after the Spence fight, but I think he took a long ass layoff, if I'm not mistaken. I think he took a real long layoff, and he got back and he didn't win the next fight that he had, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. It's been a minute since I followed up on Mikey Garcia's career, but I could be wrong. But I know for sure he wasn't the same fighter when he came back, which sucks. You know, it sucks because Mikey was an amazing fighter. He was on a pound for pound list when he was fighting. I think like top 10, maybe top 5. I think when he was fighting. Mikey was an amazing fighter. It just sucks that he went up to 147. You know, there's weight classes for a reason. You know, it just sucks.
Fight deal. If he wins, he can go back to Showtime with the belts. From my memory, that was agreed upon by Golden Boy. However, Showtime offered Garcia a lot of money and a big show. Garcia rejects the unification, goes to Showtime exclusively. Linares, desperate for a big money fight, a big legacy fight, takes a massive risk, agrees to fight rising pound-for-pound star Vasil Lomachenko. Garcia unifies against Easter, then takes a $3 million purse to fight Errol Spence Jr., which became one of the biggest mismatches at this level in the weight class to end the decade off. Garcia was never the same after that, despite the huge payout, and would retire just 2 fights later. Linares would give Vasil a run for his money, but lose, then have a failed title run at 140 pounds, and lose to Haye for the title, then lastly lose in key setup fights to fight for the title again, then retire from the sport in 2023. Now, if Mikey did take the fight, he could have very well won against Leonard, unified against Easter for a lot more money, and then pursued an undisputed unification against Jorge Pedraza, and then a mega fight, a passing of a torch fight against Gervonta Davis for a lot of money. This is definitely a case of short-term gains, long-term loss. Mikey really could have done something great and made a lot of money than he did if he'd taken the risk against Linares. Now, this is just a rumor from what I've heard from a friend from that time period. He was complaining about HBO meddling with the matchmaking of fights, which coming into the 2010s, it was blatantly obvious that they were using their influence of playing the role of matchmaker, which threw a monkey wrench at certain fighters' careers like Sergio Martinez. Allegedly, if you put things together,
Sergio
Martinez, tie HBO to
Martinez
getting stripped of the WBC title because of HBO refusing to allow the fight of him and the WBC mandatory Sebastian Zvick to go through, saying it's not HBO worthy. Then wanted him to face Sergey Zinzurek instead, which later they would take zero accountability and say this fight as well was not HBO worthy, all while propping up, promoting, and airing Julio Cesar Chavez, the godson of the WBC president, to fight Sebastian Zvick on HBO just a couple months later.
He didn't say not worthy to fight Sergio Martinez. He said he was not worthy to be on their network. A few months later, after he basically forces the issue on Sergio Martinez, is that stripped of his
shout out the Sergio Martinez though, but he is the definition of never give up. He fucking built. He was building his way through boxing. Through all the bullshit that they put him through. It was an amazing fighter. I think he started boxing at an older age too. I can't remember what age, but I think he definitely started boxing at a real older age. Shout out to him, man.
Personally, and to fight the fighter that HBO wanted him to fight, they then turn around and they approve Sebastian Zvick to make a title defense on HBO in a main event against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.
Then to ruin Paul Williams' comeback, Williams was supposed to face Nobuhito Ishida after getting put away by Martinez. Nobuhito just came off a massive win, defeating undefeated James Kirkland. What I think,
Paul Williams
HBO making Williams' team change opponent, which led to Arislandi Lara filling in that role. With all that being said, I was not surprised after hearing the story. Brandon Rios, after his loss to Pacquiao, would come back, have a strange DQ run against Diego Chavez, and go on to stop Mike Alvarado in 3 rounds for the WBO International title. Ruslan Provodnikov, after coming off a close defeat getting dethroned by Chris Algieri for the WBO Junior Welterweight title, Provodnikov would have a homecoming fight in Russia, retiring Jose Luis Castillo in 5 rounds. He would then be in a banger show against Lucas Matisse, losing by majority decision. Ruslan would move up to Rios' weight class following after the Matisse loss. According to the guy, Top Rank had set up Ruslan Provodnikov versus Brandon Rios. Stylistically, this is a fight of the year right here. This has Gaddy-Ward written all over it. As much as HBO loves to constantly bring up this fight as a quality standard of getting your money's worth as a HBO subscriber or a
I can't tell you how many times I watched Gaddy versus Ward. I can't tell you how many times I watched that fight. It's definitely it's a lot of fights that I've watched over and over and over again. And it's Gaddy versus Ward is obviously definitely up there, along with Tommy Hearns and the whole Fab Four. All their fights, Tommy Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard, Bobby Hagler, and Roberto Duran. I watched all of their fights. A lot of more fights, but had Gaddy and Ward, man, it was just a slugfest. Just the definition of the brutality of boxing.
Something else in mind. They wanted Brandon Rios instead, which on paper sounds absolutely stupid. Bradley is a fast, agile guy that can outbox but also walk you down and make it dirty. Brandon Rios is dirt-ass slow. To his credit, has a high output, but he's just too slow. And now, at welterweight, he does not have the physical advantages of imposing size and strength to bully a guy like Bradley around. Stylistically, this is going to be another Pacquiao-like beatdown for Rios. So us fans miss out on another Gaddy-Ward. We get an absolute mismatch. Teddy Atlas doing the fireman speech and Bradley getting his first stoppage in God knows how long. Rios was never the same after that at this level of the sport. sport, Ruslan would just be squeezed out of the business and leave the sport awfully young after losing to John Molina for the WBO International title in 2016. With Leonard in retirement, newly crowned undisputed champion Donald Curry was next in line to become the next biggest thing. He reached out to Leonard for advice. Curry wanted to face Marvin Hagler for the middleweight title. Leonard
I think this is when Donald Curry had, I forget what belt it was. I think Marvin Hagler also held the belt, and I think this is before. Or this is when Sugar Ray was about to fight. Was in talks of fighting with Marvin Hagler, if I'm not mistaken. I think that this is it.
Advised he should not face Hagler. Shortly after giving Curry this advice, Leonard would proceed to announce he would be coming out of retirement to only fight Marvin Hagler.
I want to do. Marvin wants it also, but I'm not making an announcement. I'm just saying I would fight him. I'm not coming back to fight. To have a career. I've had a career. I want something that's going to give me what I want. That's Marvin. I would fight him.
Leonard goes on to beat Marvin Hagler, making him even more into a superstar. With Curry not taking the fight, he would go on to face Lloyd Cunningham and lose the undisputed title.
Wow.
Then to lose to Mike McCallum.
Sugar Ray told him not to
Curry
take the fight so he could take the
champ
fight.
once again, but never got to that level of stardom if he had went ahead and faced Marvin Hagler. Leonard saw something in the Mugabe fight where he saw that Hagler was now beatable in his eyes. Do you think Donald Curry would have been able to defeat Hagler given the situation?
I think it would have been a good fight.
Started his decline, leaving the
I'm not sure if he
in
would have.
1988, the undisputed cruiserweight champion Evander Holyfield would begin his transition to become a
This is my biggest what if.
due to the
And it's more of a it's a what if. But I think it's more of a statement. You know, if Mike Tyson was in the right state of mind, and if Cus D'Amato had another, let's say 5 to 10 years in him, Mike Tyson would have been the greatest heavyweight of all time. I don't think anyone would beat a focused, prime, pre-prison with Cus D'Amato, Mike Tyson. No heavyweight is being that version of Mike Tyson. That's personally my opinion.
Foundation laid out by Mackie Shilstone, who paved the way for these jumps in weight. It did not take long for Holyfield to become a heavyweight. His first fight, he was at 202. By the time he was in title contention, he was a solid 208 pounds. Holyfield was the #1 contender to face Mike Tyson. The contract and everything was signed and good to go, with Tyson set to make the largest fight purse in boxing at a whopping $22 million, and the challenger Holyfield at $11 million. All Tyson had to do was get past pretty much a tune-up title defense against contender James Buster Douglas. The 42-1 underdog would shock
even this version of Mike Tyson would have had a more competitive fight. Oh, that shit hurt to see. Hurt to see that. But I think this version of Mike Tyson would have gave more of a competitive fight with Holyfield than the one after.
It's over. It's over.
Mike Tyson has been.
Tyson would have one chance to get Douglas out of there, dropping him in the 8th round. Douglas would get up and be saved by the bell.
I could imagine. That shit stopped the world.
And there's a right hand uppercut.
He definitely should have got counted out though.
As suddenly as that.
Shout out to Buster Douglas, but that count was
Can
great.
he beat the count? He got a little overconfident. Got a little loosey-goosey. Still wobbly. Let's see what
I think he definitely should have.
Despite Tyson putting everything into that punch to get him out of there, if Tyson had just 30 seconds left, he may have had a chance to finish Douglas, thus salvaging the Holyfield showdown.
Like what a turn of events, bro. It's just like
fair up against
like a butterfly
motivated
effect.
1990 Mike Tyson. Who do you have winning? Leave in the comments.
Yo, shout out to the Japanese people, man. Like them in boxing, bro. Like when I watch Inoue, like the way they commentate, bro, they just get you so hyped. Like if you listen to the Japanese commentators and the fucking American commentators, There's nothing wrong with the American commentators, but you can clearly see the contrast and the hypeness between the two commentators. You know, I just found that funny. Crazy, man. Shit, feel like I'm taking that punch myself.
In January 2009, Shane Mosley would shock the boxing world, turning back the clock and beating the brakes off Antonio Margarito to become the WBA welterweight.
I feel like that's definitely a fight that should
him
have
up to #1 in the rankings.
Shane was
Berto, who was groomed to be the next biggest star to fight Floyd Mayweather, defeat Luis Collazo in a narrow thriller, then to defeat IBF junior welterweight champion Juan Urango. Floyd later in the 2009 year would announce his comeback to boxing. The Mayweather versus Mosley fight was certainly on the top of boxing fans' list.
Shane Mosley, who got 5 losses, that's the one you're talking about?
Shane Mosley, the guy who totally dismantled Antonio Margarito.
He beat Cotto, and Cotto beat him. All these guys beating each other, but nobody has beat Floyd Mayweather.
He's the champ right now.
Answer the question.
He's the champ right now. He's the champ in your old weight class.
A belt don't make me. A belt don't make me.
But he's a champ in your weight class. You're going after a guy 2 weight classes lighter. A great fighter. He's a great fighter, Floyd.
You're right. Shane Mosley is the only guy I know. Guess what? He's not a pay-per-view attraction.
However, the next best option while things were building up was the WBC champion Adrien Broner to unify against the WBA champion Shane Mosley. A deal was finally made for January 30th, 2010. On January 12, 2010, Berto's home country would get hit by a 7.0 magnitude earthquake. Berto, who has family in Haiti, this fight would get canceled days later, officially on the 19th, after Berto was mentally and physically exhausted.
That smell was intense. It was 10 times worse than any garbage can or any dumpster that I've ever smelled. It was the smell of rotten flesh, and I'll never forget that smell.
Me and my brother went there, we went straight to work.
For 5 days, Adrien worked with Dr. Barth Green and Project Metashare.
If the earthquake never happened and everything went according to schedule, who would win, Mosley or Berto? Floyd had
I
two
think
chances to become
Berto
the
definitely
first time wasn't really his fault.
I think Berto definitely would have won that. Shane was kind of out of his prime by then. Granted, he did have that great performance versus Margarito, but that's Margarito. But I think Berto kind of would have. Adrien Broner kind of would win it. But then you never know, because Adrien, he kind of did have his off nights at times, like at times that he wasn't supposed to, and Shane definitely turned the clock on a lot of his other fights. So you never really know. I mean, obviously it's boxing, if I had to go prime for prime, I definitely would say Shane Mosley though.
Zab Judah, the undisputed welterweight champion, slept on Carlos Baldomir, came in heavily underprepared and lost it all. This time around, almost 10 years later, coming into 2015, Floyd was in a perfect position. He held the WBA, WBC, and ring titles. He was set to face WBO champion Manny Pacquiao. A win here, he would have 3 belts, and all that would be left is Kell Brook with the IBF. The problem here is, outside of the Porter fight, no one knows who Kell Brook is. So Brook for the longest was trying to get a fight with Amir Khan, while Khan is trying to get a fight with Floyd Mayweather. But little Khan knew he needed Brook to get a Mayweather fight. So really, they needed each other here, but a lot of nothing happened. No fight was made. Floyd pretty much said neither guy is worthy.
But that definitely
would have the WBO sanctioning fees to keep the belt after beating Manny, and the rest is history. Now, if Khan wasn't so blind and fought Brook before the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, who would have won between prime Brook and Khan? And who do you have between Mayweather versus the winner of Brook versus Khan? Leave in the comments. After the horrid Klitschko fight, Haye would come back big in his first fight back, knocking out David Chisora in the 3rd round.
I'm not really that familiar with David Haye's career. I know he was a cruiserweight at one point, right?
A huge promotion was set up for Haye to face rising star Tyson Fury. Given David Haye's reputation with big fights and injuries, Haye would once again get injured, which led to the fight getting postponed and moved to February 8th. Just 2 months later,
that would have been
Haye
a good
would get
fight,
injured
Haye
again,
versus,
this time
Tyson
involving
Fury.
his shoulder. The fight would get canceled. Haye needed to get surgery, which he'll be advised to have retired from boxing altogether. Even after winning the title in 2015, Fury was still pissed at the situation, vowing to never give Haye a shot at the title.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like
took
Tyson Fury.
I thought this was the best version of David Haye in 2013. Who do you have winning between the two? Haye or Fury? Leave in the comments. In 2017, Joshua would take over the division incredibly fast, dethroning IBF champion Charles Martin.
If it was back then, when they was both at the top, great time in the heavyweight division, by the way. If they was both at the top, I would obviously have to go with Deontay Wilder. I think AJ would have made it a competitive fight. Obviously, it would have went how any other Wilder fight was to go. Granted, AJ hits harder than a lot of other Wilder's opponents at the time, so he could have caught him. He could have caught Wilder. He could have possibly dropped him a lot. But I think that AJ would have got caught by a right hand coming in, and he wouldn't have been able to recover. I think that you know, that's how that would have played out. But that's one scenario how I can see it, or it could have been another scenario. You know, AJ could have completely dominated the fight, completely like you know, just shut out on all cards and possibly could have stopped him. You know, that possibly could have happened. You know, it's boxing. You never really know. Sadly, we didn't get to see it. Maybe in another lifetime, though.
Klitschko. In 2018, Joshua would pick up the last of the available titles, beating Joseph Parker for the WBO. All that's left is Deontay Wilder in the WBC. Earlier in a make-or-break fight, Wilder defeats Luis Ortiz in the 10th round. The money, the power is in Europe. Joshua has 3 belts to Wilder's 1, and he's backed up by much more financial backers than Wilder. So Team Joshua would want this fight in the UK, preferably at Wembley. However, Wilder's people want it in America. Deals were sent out from both parties.
It definitely would have been way bigger in
Joshua has full leverage on
Europe.
Team Wilder. Team Wilder would backtrack and pursue a fight with the lineal champion Tyson Fury. Fury, recovering from heavy substance abuse, and went under an insane weight loss transformation in a short period of time. On paper, this is an easy fight for Wilder. He'll be the lineal champion, which puts him above Joshua, where he can command a better contract and to have the fight in America, because by lineage, Wilder is a true champion of the weight class. However, this fails horribly. The fight goes to a draw, and now Wilder has to deal with having a rematch with Fury, which later turned into a blessing in disguise as Joshua would lose, which elevated Wilder to the top 2 in the rankings.
It's just crazy. It's just all
so the winner of the
rematch
man. Would not only be for the lineal, but also the ring title as well. Fury would go on to win.
What if Deontay Wilder? What if he beat Tyson Fury that first fight, blocked him out, and what if AJ didn't lose to Andy Ruiz? Like, this is crazy.
Thus making this into even more of a failure. So if all this never happened, Joshua and Wilder agreed to fight in late 2018 or early 2019, who do you have winning and why? Leave in the comments.
Crazy.
In December 2019, Joshua regained the titles he lost to
I would have loved to see
Ruiz
this
in
fight
rematch.
too.
Just a couple months later in 2020, Tyson Fury would defeat Deontay Wilder in their rematch for the WBC
this is when
titles.
all
in
the
2021,
Anthony Joshua had to do
talk
was
of
beat
Fury versus Joshua was made for the undisputed heavyweight title, making it a historic matchup between 2 fighters from the UK, and certainly be the biggest fight in UK boxing history. Wilder is refusing to step aside and all kinds of other nonsense, stepping in between a historic matchup, which ultimately it got canned because of Wilder, and Fury had to fly over to America to face Wilder once more in October, and Joshua now had to face his mandatory Alexander Usyk in September. Fury would once again beat Wilder, however Usyk was too much for Joshua, and once again Joshua gets dethroned. If Joshua won against Usyk in the first fight, The Fury fight was back on for the following year. However, Joshua would have to fight Usyk in a rematch, and he will lose the rematch, and we will never see an undisputed unification between two Brits at the Wembley Stadium. Certainly a cultural event beyond our imagination that we'll never get to see. If the fight took place in 2021,
at least for undisputed, it can still happen.
Joshua, leave in the
comments.
Happen. And on top of that, this is the biggest what ifs in boxing. Be sure to like,
shout out the office honcho. It can still happen. You never know.